Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another Final Fantasy 15 news and information video. Guys, it's been such a long time since we last sat down and talked about some Final Fantasy 15 news, and I generally like to do this when of course we do receive something pretty damn substantial to do with Final Fantasy 15. Now, we actually have some pretty damn cool stuff to talk about, as recently there was a Final Fantasy 15 active time report, in which this is a live stream that Square Enix uses to sit down for a certain amount of time and talk about the upcoming updates and patches that will soon be arriving to Final Fantasy 15. This active time report was actually special because it was also commemorating the first anniversary of Final Fantasy 15, and I can't even believe it's been a whole entire year since the initial release of the game. Time just seems to be flying by. However, we have some really cool stuff to talk about in today's videos. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So first things first, I want to talk about one of the coolest things that is coming within the December patch for Final Fantasy 15, obviously this month as we're now in December, and that is going to be the option to seamlessly switch between the different characters in your party on the go within the main story of Final Fantasy 15, meaning that you can switch from Noctis to Prompto, from Prompto to Gladio, and from Gladio to Ignis, or of course any way that you like. All of the characters are now going to be completely playable throughout the main single-player story. Now, this option will be available throughout the open-world portions of Final Fantasy 15, so obviously for chapters where it's only Noctis and requires Noctis, that means that you will actually have to play as Noctis. But in the situations where you do have the boys by your side, you will be able to switch between the different characters. Now, the gameplay of each character will play like their DLC episode. And this is really cool because obviously each character plays a little differently. When looking towards Prompto, he focuses on ranged attacks, obviously using guns. Gladio is more of a slow, hard-hitting character with a rage meter, and Ignis focuses on quick attacks but also uses magic as well. So when it comes down to it, this is going to be a completely new way to actually experience the main story of Final Fantasy 15, and I've kind of been itching to get back into the game to do yet another playthrough. I was initially wanting to do this when they actually released New Game Plus, but never really got around to it. But with this new update coming in, like I was saying, this is really going to switch up the entire experience of playing through Final Fantasy 15. Just being able to seamlessly switch between the boys on the go is a really cool thing. However, this leads me on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is, you know, Square Enix have been absolutely fantastic in terms of constantly updating Final Fantasy 15 throughout the extent of this year. Now, disregarding the actual DLC for Final Fantasy 15 and more so looking towards the patches and updates that of course Square has supplied for the game, you gotta admit Square Enix have been doing an absolutely fantastic job. But it boggles my mind when looking towards a lot of the different content that they've added to Final Fantasy 15 for free, when looking towards this new thing that's coming in soon to be able to play as the different characters on the go, and other things like obviously New Game Plus and the additional story cutscenes and story content that they've added for free. It makes me think that if all of this kind of stuff, especially the option to play as the different characters, was actually available at launch when, you know, Final Fantasy 15 first released, I feel like the reception of this game would have been so much better. Now, I'm not trying to say that the reception of Final Fantasy 15 was bad, because overall, when looking towards the actual reviews of Final Fantasy 15, they are pretty good. But there were obviously a lot of complaints in certain areas of the game, and yes, Final Fantasy 15 is not a perfect game experience, but it's still one hell of an experience to experience. God dang, that's a lot of experiences. However, though, better late than never, and it's absolutely fantastic to see that Square Enix still to this day are keeping up with, you know, these free content drops, and especially when looking towards the whole playable character thing. This is going to be part of the December patch update, so you do not have to purchase this or anything like that. It will be 100% free. It kind of makes me think that, you know, if Square Enix actually spent another year working on Final Fantasy 15, in which I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with just because of the fact that Final Fantasy 15 just took such a long time to come out, with it originally being Final Fantasy Versus 13. But if they actually spent just one more extra year on the game, adding all of these additional story content content pieces, and of course the option to do New Game Plus, as well as play as all of the other characters. I think the initial experience of Final Fantasy 15 would have been so much better compared to what of course we played through when the game released last year. Moving along, not too long ago, Tabata actually confirmed that they do have plans to create more DLC for Final Fantasy 15. Now, Episode Ignis is going to be releasing on December 13th, and that marks the very final DLC piece for, of course, the Season Pass of Final Fantasy 15. But Tabata does have plans to actually extend the DLC for Final Fantasy 15, and that is going to be including an episode Ardyn, which will be releasing sometime next year. That is going to be the first DLC episode within the second wave of DLC out of 3 episodes. So there's going to be episode Ardyn, and then there's also going to be 2 more DLC episodes that will release sometime next year. A lot of people as of right now are actually begging for more stuff to do with Luna, and I have to agree, when looking towards the character story of Luna, I really wish she got more screen time within Final Fantasy 15. I want to learn a little bit more about her. This most likely means that Square Enix will end up making a second DLC pass. This is something that they have talked about, but they weren't really too sure if they were going to go ahead and make a second DLC pass. But from the looks of it, they are planning 3 more episodes, so with that, I would say we're most likely going to be receiving a second DLC pass. I think the continuation, though, of more Final Fantasy 15 content is actually a really cool thing. It's, you know, another way of keeping the game alive and thriving. Yes, granted, like I have mentioned many times throughout this video, I wish a lot of this content was available, you know, within Final Fantasy 15 upon its initial release. But keep in mind, better late than never. And finally, Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, which is basically the mobile version of Final Fantasy 15, has actually been delayed. Now, we didn't end up talking about this when it was first revealed a few months ago, but this is a pretty crazy thing. This is basically Final Fantasy 15 translated onto your phone. Now, really, there's no surprises there because, of course, it kind of seems like Square Enix are really trying to milk this series in a certain way. Again, this doesn't bother me too much because I think for fans of Final Fantasy 15, this is a really cool thing with them obviously receiving more content to do with the Final Fantasy 15 universe. But initially, Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition was due to release on the first anniversary of Final Fantasy 15, which of course was November 29th. Square Enix are needing some additional time to work on the Pocket Edition, so it's been delayed from November 29th to sometime in winter. Not too sure if I'll end up picking up the Pocket Edition. It does look pretty cool, being that it is like Final Fantasy 15, but in a kind of like chibi-esque graphic style. It is cool looking. But again, it's just simply Final Fantasy 15 in that chibi style on your mobile phone, so it's kind of like if you want to experience Final Fantasy 15 on the go with a slightly different style, you can do that. But I think for me personally, this will be a situation of just passing it up. Now guys, that's all the news and information for today. I thought I would get out this Final Fantasy 15 news because it is some pretty substantial stuff, especially when looking towards the fact that we can now actually play through the entire game, not just playing as Noctis, but the rest of the boys as well. And I've been so itching to go through another playthrough of Final Fantasy 15, and I think I'm going to wait until the December update rolls over. That way, I'm almost getting a different experience being able to play as the different characters on the go. Now guys, in the comment section down below, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and until next time guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.